What is up, everybody? It is Tuesday night. I am Chad Brock.
And I'm Zach Bailiff.
You guys are watching or listening to the Orion Podcast. Welcome back, everybody. Good to see you. Good to see you. We can kind of see them. They're in the comments.
Yeah, I can see you.
I can see the comments. I can see the comment section. Got Miss Jean. Miss Jean saying hi to Hope. She's the AKA the Den Mother.
Yeah, she's the faithful, the one, and usually the first guest to chime in.
So not only does our moms watch, Jean watches.
Yeah.
You gotta have somebody. You gotta have somebody
got at least three in the audience. So
Mike is hot tonight. I can hear it rattle in my own ears. Yeah, man. So it's been like a week. You got all kinds of new fun stuff coming up. Weather's changing. It's spring, even though it's February. It's early spring, fake spring, as I've been calling it.
It's even trending a little warmer in the afternoons over here in PA. So.
We had a balmy 56 today and going to top out at 70 tomorrow. So I'm looking forward to it. Boats coming out this weekend. Guarantee it.
There you go.
I'm ready, man.
We've not fished in February in a t-shirt in a while. So
I actually come across that picture. It was in the old memory selection the other day. So good times. But hopefully we'll get some bites. And I know Brummett went out and caught a stack of bluegill on what was it, Saturday? Yeah, he went out Saturday and braved the weather while I stayed at home and got ready to go. But tackle's ready, everything's loaded up, dry clothes are packed. It's just that time. It's that time.
Yeah.
It's like you've been hearing that reel, the Joe Rogan reel with Theo Vaughn. Spring is in the air. He's like, it's January. It's really here.
Everybody's starting to chatter a little bit about turkeys, and 3D shoots are kicking up, and I'm trying to get a bow ready for Redding. So it's
you got a big shoot coming up.
Almost here, yeah. Gonna head down the
place.
Redding is in May. That's
in May.
First weekend of May. So no, not too far off.
How's the indoor training going, man?
It's good. It's shooting a 20-yard Vegas base, which for those that don't know, the X is about the size of a nickel. With an 83-pound hunting bow, shooting 4mm shafts is a bit mentally challenging at times, but it's good to get reps in. So,
are you getting to the point where the reps are getting smoother?
The reps are smooth. It's just getting my head out of the way and executing the way I know how to do it. So just kind of it's good to just retrain myself on execution and back engagement and work on that front shoulder holding the bow steady.
Yeah, I mean, and like I said, alluded to, it's when you start shooting spots and stuff like that, it is very mentally taxing. I think as you progress through it, you're your own worst enemy sometimes because you're focusing on perfection.
Yeah,
I do. That's why I go fishing, because I can't be perfect. It limits my perfection.
Yeah.
Well, we got a heck of a guest tonight, man.
I'm excited.
I'm gonna let you throw down the intro, and you just spill the beans. Tell them who we got tonight.
Yeah, it's Mr. Matt Davis, a longtime friend of mine. Man, just a killer trad archer, traditional archery guy. Hunting mule deer and elk out west. fitness junkie, which is, part of that in archery is how we kind of got acquainted and got to know each other a bit. And, he's worked in the fitness industry a little bit and then took up a love of upland hunting and some, business ownership and entrepreneurship. And now he's got his own company in the upland space. So welcome on, Matt.
Buttons off. Caught me slipping.
I did.
I was throwing comments up, and
yeah.
I'm just glad I wasn't on mute. That wouldn't have been the first time I start talking. They're like, Matt.
It happens.
Oh.
It happens on the Orion podcast more than we'd probably ever like to admit.
Well, that's the joy of a live show. We've said it before.
We screw up, man. we flat out screw up at least once a show. I forget something, forget like sponsors or whatever, like up there in the corner that I just flipped up there. So, it's a learning process where you're into it and we're still trying to figure it out. We might get there by 24. That's our goal.
Yeah. 2 years to kind of work out the bugs and then, you get it all ironed out. But
with the live show, you never know what you're going to get. Internet cuts out. You just never know, but it adds a little pizzazz. We can see who's out there commenting and hang out with those folks for a little bit. Gene.
Yeah. Yeah.
The den mother.
So you guys are about to get dumped on with a little bit of that white stuff, I hear.
Yeah, it's already hitting us. We were trying to stay in front of it. We just got home about 2:00 this morning from the big upland trade show that goes on. Well, this particular year was out in Minneapolis, Minnesota there. And that's the Pheasants Forever and Quail Classic Pheasant Fest. That's like the big to-do of upland hunting. So gotcha. we raced that home, and going out wasn't smooth sailing, and coming home wasn't either. But it's a bit of a pull. It always stinks because everything's on the east side of the states here, and we're over in Utah, and so it's always going to be 18 to 20 hours, and depending on the weather, it can be a little bit longer. So it is what it is, and it takes what it takes. But we're alive.
Yeah. Well, and I feel like this time of year, anytime you're burning gas across Montana and Wyoming and those states, it's hard telling what you're going to run into out there.
It is. You play it by ear. You just basically have your phone up and you're just looking at the weather and just trying to figure out where you can get to, right? I mean, I-80 going across Wyoming, you have no idea if you're going to come around a corner and there's a gate closed, right? I mean, they'll just shut the freeway down, and semi trucks are lined along the sides. And anyways, going out there, we had to take a couple back roads, and I about ran out of diesel. I probably about 10 miles from empty, and just luckily made it into this little podunk town. And I think I paid $6 a gallon for diesel, but I figured that was cheaper than bleeding my injectors and stuff about other repairs that I would have been dealing with. So.
Yeah, and in those conditions, $6 a gallon doesn't sound so bad.
Nope, I was happy to pay it.
Yeah. That stuff throws a wrench in the plan, especially when you're pulling a trailer and the booth and inventory and all that stuff. That's a whole nother ball game versus just driving a vehicle.
Yeah. You got a long bed truck and a 20-foot trailer that weighs 6,000-7,000 pounds, and there were a couple spots out there. It was, pretty gnarly. You get going, and there would just be sheets of ice, that had just been run over so many times, and it's 20-something degrees. And so you can see the sheet of ice coming. And so you just lock your hands on the wheel because you can't turn the wheel, don't accelerate, don't slow down. And you kind of just aim for somewhere on the road where you want to end up. And dude, it was a lot of pucker factor going on.
The pucker factor was high on that one. Beat me to it. Yeah.
So, Matt, let's kind of jump into this thing. One of the things that we always like to ask, and how we kind of start off the Orion podcast, is with the big question: how'd you get started, man? Like, how did the outdoors come to find you and make an impression on your life?
Oh, shoot, man. y'all, I feel like maybe my story isn't overly special as far as how the outdoors found me or how I found it. I think it's, a rinse, lather, repeat of just naturally being drawn to it at a young age and having a dad that was willing to take me out, let me hunt, let me fish, and kind of just get into that stuff. And I just embraced it for what it was. It was something I couldn't get enough of as a kid, and ended up coming back. I graduated high school. I actually went and served a mission for my church and came back and was going to school, working on my degree. And Utah is really, it is the mecca of outdoor companies. There are a lot of really, really big outdoor businesses out this way. And, obviously had ambitions to potentially work for some of them, and eventually actually got a job for Hoyt Archery. And that's actually how Zach and I got to know each other. He kind of alluded to that a little bit earlier in the intro. I was in my early 20s and ended up having a great run there, working for a fantastic company. I was there for a little over 6 years. Enjoyed, absolutely every second of that. It was really unique. I was very blessed in the regards of, I hopped in and kind of started out in customer service, but was fortunate to transition into kind of an international sales role. And so I was managing all of our international sales accounts, which is all the target archery. And going into that, I didn't even know that target archery existed. I just bow hunted, right? I didn't even know. I started seeing some of those bows, and I'm like, what in the world are these things, And it was very, very foreign to me initially. But over the course of the years, it was fantastic to be able to, I traveled the world. I got to go all over the world, all over to Asia and Europe. And I'm a 20-year-old kid, being able to run around and just, I feel like I lived, my dream while I was there, and it was fantastic. Anyways, through those relationships and kind of networking and different things like that, Zach spoke a little bit to, kind of the outdoor space and the fitness space. And at the time, there was a handful of, young startup companies that were kind of getting into the nutrition space and kind of focusing on that hunter athlete mentality, right? Like this was like the era of like Cameron Haynes becoming Cameron Haynes. Like I knew Cam Haynes when nobody knew who Cam Haynes was.
Right.
Like that type of thing. Right. And, so, that was kind of the trend that was happening in that space. And you started seeing a lot of companies start catering to that and start focusing on that. And I actually, built a couple of relationships with some of the initial founders of Mountain Ops. They actually ended up hiring me away from Hoyt. I was the second employee they hired, and I actually still work there today. A lot of people don't know that, but I actually am still employed by Mountain Ops, and I'm very grateful for them. They're really good people, an objective-based company, very, very good core values that does a lot of really good things. And so I'm fortunate, because I was essentially an early on employee or early adopter of Mountain Ops. I'm able to run my own business in basically my spare time, and they fully support that, which is I feel like that's really special in today's world, that you have, people that are basically saying, hey, like, as long as you're performing here, it's all performance based, right? Like there's very specific numbers that are tied to my contributions within the company. And if that takes me 2 hours, whatever, if it takes me 8 hours, whatever, if it's 40 hours, doesn't matter. It's all based on performance. So as long as I'm performing in my role, they don't care what I do with the rest of my time. And I'm really just not one to sit around and thumb around on Facebook or, just I won't say waste my time, but just spend too much time on social media and other things that maybe don't add as much value as what I want in my life. And so I've always been a bird hunter, always loved bird dogs in general, and kind of how Final Rise came to be, which is the name of our upland company. Growing up, my parents owned an industrial sewing business. So I've always known how to sew. I've always tweaked with my hunting gear, changed my backpacks, my pants, like all those different things, right? And being a bird hunter, there's a lot of great packs and different things out there, but there was, I felt like there was something missing. I was living in this world of big game hunting or the big game space. And you look at, Sitka, Kuiu, and all these other pinnacle companies, right, and it's moving at such an accelerated rate. I mean, every year there's different components, different textiles, different garments, different construction processes. And you look to the archery space, right, Zach? And it's like, dude, it blows my mind, the innovation that is constantly being injected into these spaces. And bird hunting, bird hunting is very passive. I kind of feel like there's this big gap between people that really like bird hunting. There's a lot of the older guys, and it kind of fell off. There aren't a lot of young guys my age, and I'm 32, but there aren't a lot of younger guys that are like diehard bird hunters. And anyways, I just thought, you know what, I'm going to bring some of the experience that I have in backpack hunting and in understanding backpacks and having access to all the wonderful gear. You can get pro deals on stuff, right? So I've got all the fancy backpacks, I've got all the fancy camo and all these different things. I'm like, man, if I took that, and that and brought that over to an upland and I changed X, Y, Z, man, I feel like you could have a really, really nice system that carries well, that like just fulfills all the particular needs that I was looking for. And so I honestly just made a couple of them for kicks and giggles. It wasn't like I've always had sewing machines. And so I had a sewing machine in the house, and I knew fabrics, I knew textiles because my parents owned a company. And so I knew where to get stuff. And so I just hopped online and ordered some Cordura and ordered some, YKK zippers and ITW Nexus, buckles and stuff, and just spun a couple of them up. And, we'd go hunt. We're like, this didn't work how I wanted it to, or this wasn't as comfortable as I wanted this to be. And we just go back to my house, and then we would just sew on it, and we just change it, and then we would go back out and hunt again. And it was just this really cool R&D process that was so churn and burn, because it was like hunt, repair, hunt, fix. Like we were just like going back and forth, just like constantly moving that product. And as Mountain Ops was growing, there was it kind of come to a point in time where the company was actually selling a portion of the ownership, and my job went from, hey, you wear every hat in marketing like any small startup kind of does, to hey, we're hiring people, we're restructuring, we're getting people in specific lanes, and Matt, here's what we need you to do. So it goes from I have all these hats to here's my lane, here's what I need to contribute. And when you go from that startup grind of like never not working to all of a sudden it's like I could go home at 5 o'clock, and I'd get home, I'm like, what the heck am I doing if I wasn't shooting my bow? And so like, oh, maybe I'll just try selling a couple of these. And I tell people all the time, my goal, guys, was just to be able to pay for some extra hunting. If I could get an elk tag or a deer tag in Colorado, Idaho, or Wyoming every year, a couple $1,000 or whatever, just to be able to go, and then obviously expense, write off my lifestyle essentially, right? Buying stuff like that. It was just a no-brainer. And so I was like, well, I'll just do it for fun. And one thing led to another, and I have an obsessive personality in both good ways and bad ways, and started leaning into it a little bit more, and thought, I'm going to see what this can be. I'm going to do all the things that I've been doing for other companies, and the things that I know, and the strategy and the playbooks that I've written that have made a lot of people a lot of money. Like, I'm going to try that for myself. I'm going to try that in my own space. And man, here we are. We're going into our 4th year of business, and have just had explosive growth, to go from something that my wife and I were cutting fabric on our kitchen table to now we have a full-blown warehouse, and we have cut and sew facilities, and have turned that into essentially the American dream of American manufacturing. And that's really kind of our MO as a company. We're 100% American made and sourced. That is like who we are to the core. I feel like there's a lot of great companies out there that really embody that. You've got a Kafaru and an XO and a handful of these companies. It's like, this is who we are, and this is what we do. And I don't know if a lot of people, like, I often wonder if people really realize the value of that, right? And people are like, oh, this is more expensive. Buying American made is expensive. And I understand that, sourcing stuff here, absolutely. But I always tell people, I'm like, how expensive do you think it would be if everything was done overseas, if everything was foreign, and they controlled the entire market. If there weren't people doing the American made in the trenches and they had absolute control on that, I promise you it'd be way more expensive to buy foreign. And so I'm not knocking any of the foreign stuff in any way at all. I feel like it's good to have all those different things working in unison. But I truly believe that American made is the future of, American manufacture, both in soft goods, materials, different things like that. And I feel like we experienced a couple things over the past couple of years that have really brought that to light. And I feel like a lot of people are starting to realize the value in that. And so ultimately, while, this is my passion here, I would love to be able to really grow a lot of our manufacturing. I'm a hunter, I'm a bird hunter, but I'm a hunter, and I feel like there's a lot of opportunity and a lot of other soft goods as well. And so, Final Rise is really the tip of the spear. This is a way for me to express myself and my passions through gear and through bird hunting. But there's a lot of other things that I love as well. And I think we'll start getting there in the next year or two.
Yeah, that'd be awesome to see. Just outside looking in, what you guys have done in such a relatively short time, and the climate that it has been the last couple of years has been really special to see. So,
no, thank you, and it really has. It's when we launched, it was when everything was essentially shutting down with COVID. And I don't feel like we could have picked a worse time to try and start a business. And so we've just been extremely blessed that things have gone the way that they have. And, I feel like the harder we work, the luckier we get. And that's kind of just how I was raised. I was raised to work hard. And I believe if we buckle down and do the right things, and we're good people, and we have integrity, and we treat people the way that we want to be treated, both as customers and in business, I feel like that goes a long ways in today's world. And so everything's kind of come full circle and the ball's rolling.
Right. Yeah. And it probably feels good too, knowing that, you're giving friends and neighbors and the guy down the road a job. I mean, there's a lot of gratification in that. You're not only supporting, your dreams, but you're supporting somebody else's dreams now through your products.
Absolutely. One really cool thing that we were actually, and we're getting close to crossing the finish line on this goal, but we were out in Minnesota this past week, and I'm good friends with a lot of the guys over at Onyx. I've just have a working relationship with those guys for quite a while. And we did a big collaborative booth at Pheasant Fest together, because Onyx isn't necessarily selling anything. They have their iPad stands and different stuff, and they've got a great team there to help people understand how to use the product, a lot of demoing and stuff like that. But because they're not selling anything, we figured, hey, like, we draw a lot of people into the Final Rise booth. You guys are bringing stuff in, like, let's do a big booth experience together. But like, let's go into this with a mission to actually, accomplish something that supports the outside, that supports the reason that we're here. And what I'm speaking to is Pheasants Forever. And so one of the things that we did is we designed this really cool hat. We ran 1,000 of these hats, and we're selling for $25 a piece. And so the goal is to raise 25 grand. Well, here's where it gets really cool. Specifically in the state of Minnesota, Pheasants Forever is able to receive a 40x match on every dollar that's donated to Pheasants Forever for their habitat restoration. Wow. Every state is a little bit different. And I think what they were saying is that, like, on average, their like match is like a 3x match. And that's just through different sorts of government funding. But Minnesota is 40x. And so It's like, I sat down to think about that when I heard that when we were going to the show. I was like, okay, here's an incredible opportunity to like make an impact and do something that could be really, really special. So those hats, if we're able to raise 25 grand through just these hats, 25 grand times 40 is $1 million.
Right.
So basically in a weekend, and we've got a couple hundred more hats to sell, and we're selling them on our website, but we'll move the rest of those this week, and we're going to write a fat check to those guys. And that, to me, Chad, is what it's about. That's why I'm here, dude. I love employing good people. I love being able to, make a living doing something I love, but like, it's the big picture, right? You got to see the big
tie
picture.
in the conservation.
And because if that's not good, I'm not good, right?
Yeah.
If there aren't places to hunt, then who's hunting? And if nobody's hunting, who's buying bird vests, right? So it's like it's one of those things that I think people oftentimes overlook. And there's all sorts of different organizations, and some people complain that this one does this or this one does that. And I just say the organizations are like people. Nobody's perfect, but at least they're out there doing something. And I'll always support a doer over somebody that just sits there and talks. So that was something I was super proud that we're working towards, and I know we'll accomplish here in the next couple of days.
Yeah, when I saw you post that up on Friday, I was like, man, it's I know the hats are going to sell in a heartbeat, and that's going to be quite the dent in some sort of habitat program or wherever they need to allocate those funds. It's going to make a big impact on
yeah, like in perspective, right? This past year, they raised, I think, or in the past 5 years, I think in like their campaign for the uplands or whatever, I think they raised like $562 million over the duration of that campaign, which is about 5 years. And I didn't run the numbers on that of like what that averaged to out on like a week, on a monthly basis. But it's like, that's a couple $1 million essentially every month. And to be we're the little guy in the pond, right? I mean, you've got Orvis, you've got Filson, you've got a lot of companies that are way bigger than what we're doing. And all those guys do fantastic stuff. I mean, I think federal, on a quarterly basis, they write like a $25 million check to Pheasants Forever. Like freaking crazy.
That's big stuff.
But to be the little guy, you got to start somewhere, right? And I felt pretty proud that we were able to put something together and make an impact just being the little guy.
Yeah, obviously organizations like that taking care of the animals and the resources that we have and putting money and time and work and effort towards conservation is a perpetual conversation in the space. But even more so right now. I mean, obviously the hunting as a whole is always under a little bit of an attack, and to have conservations like Pheasants Forever and Howl and some of these companies that are really putting boots on the ground right now and legislative efforts and things of that nature is awesome to see, and they need all the financial support they can get. So
100%, man.
And if you guys are looking for his website and you're watching the live, you can see it right down there at the bottom, finalrise.com, if you guys want to check that out. It is down
Look
there.
At you, fancy.
If you see my eyes moving, Matt, that's why I'm multitasking.
Like breaking news, like I should be reporting something important happening right now.
You just did. You just did.
Breaking.
Oh man.
Thank you, Chad.
Hey, no problem.
We buzzed by it a little bit there, but the fitness side of things, with everything you've got going on, obviously I thought you were still with Mountain Ops, but I wasn't sure.
Yeah.
And I mean, obviously you're putting a ton of hours. I mean, when you work for yourself, you're always working, right?
Absolutely.
You work 100 hours a week to work for yourself versus working 40 hours a week for somebody else. And where in that schedule, how's fitness fitting in right now? How's that going?
It's still going good, man. I mean, that's a habit, right? I feel like fitness and well-being is a habit. And fortunately, that was instilled in me, or I instilled it in myself, maybe, just being dedicated to that specifically. But I'm at the gym 5 days a week, and I live a very active lifestyle in general. We just came off of the tail end of our chucker season. And for people that haven't hunted wild chuckers before, the country that we're hunting, it's basically hunting like Rocky Mountain sheep, but you're trying to shoot birds that fly like laser beams, and it's super rad.
Sounds like fun to me.
It's cardio to the max. I don't feel bad when I stop at a Flying J and pound half a pizza after, because I know I'm still in the negative. So
yeah. 100%. Some of the best pizzas I've ever had were after packing an elk off the mountain. So.
Absolutely, man. No, so it's been good. I mean, it's one of those things, that self-care and being able to take care of yourself. If number one isn't good, right, how can you take care of everything else? And so that desire to self-improve and just progress through life, never flatline. I feel like the harder I push myself, that transcends and radiates into other aspects of my life and into business, into my marriage, my relationships, and different things like that. And that's how I start my day every day, because I feel like that just sets the tone, and it's a big deal to me. So I can always do better, but I still do it.
Yeah. It's the foundation, right? Not only is it the foundation for health, but even, as a business owner and an entrepreneur, it gets you up, gets you going. It's the one constant in your day to day that, is going to be there. And there's such a big conversation about mental health and those things right now. And I mean, I don't know about you, but the gym has been my my psychiatrist for a long, long time. When it comes to stress management and those sort of things, you just pick up iron a little bit, and everybody needs a little heavier dose of iron in their diet, I think.
It clears the anxiety.
Yeah,
I think is the best way to put it.
There's no doubt about that.
So now, kind of backing up here, I know Zach's in the fitness part of it, but
we'll chase squirrels.
We're chasing squirrels. You caught me with one comment you made, is the younger people not getting into the pheasant hunting as much.
Yeah,
like why? I mean, because while social media can be a very polluted and negative outlet, it can also be a very positive outlet, and
absolutely.
When I think of the dogs, I think of pheasants, I think of duck hunting and the dogs, and there's almost, and I know Zach will agree with, there's almost like a cinematic beauty to some of the stuff that you see for pheasant, for ducks and whatnot. Why do you think maybe it's not picking up with the youth as much?
Well, I think it's starting to pick up, Chad. I think like there's a change happening. But I feel like there was kind of a gap, and I feel I don't know necessarily where it came from. And I think maybe a lot of it more so has to do with opportunity in general. We were talking a little bit about this right before we kicked the show live, but growing up here, I used to have wild pheasants in my yard. And I see them every now and then, but I don't shoot birds. I don't shoot wild pheasant in Utah anymore, because I hope they come back. Like, I'm willing to drive to Washington and different places like that to be able to hunt wild pheasant. But I feel like a lot of it was opportunity, and maybe the emphasis specifically on those things. There's just kind of this gap, essentially. I feel like there was 10, 15 years where things fell off and people really didn't start doing anything about it. There's so much growth and development everywhere in the world. There's so many people, and it's not necessarily a bad thing, but I just don't feel like, you couldn't walk out your door anymore. And, I used to go to high school and I had a shotgun in my back window. I'm 32 years old. Like, that's not it wasn't that long ago. I was taking guns to school.
Right.
And you'd leave your dog in the truck, and then you'd get down and you'd freaking run down to the river. And half the time I was skipping school because I was trying to shoot a turkey off the roost, or I was trying to catch fish. I wanted to go shoot birds. Like, I was just, running around. And I feel like just maybe how today's world is, that isn't as welcome, that isn't as embraced or okay. And, I don't know. That was my therapy, right? I think Zach was, tying that fitness and everything. Some of these squirrels, bringing them all in the same box, right? It's like,
well, they're squirrels and rabbits, but sometimes they get together. It happens,
right? But there were outlets, right? We had outlets. It's like, I remember playing till dark, and it was be back by dark. And I grew up on just a 20-acre farm, and had a big creek in the back, and it was like, come home, do your chores. I had to play the piano, unfortunately. And then as soon as that was done, it was like, boom, out the back door. And, everybody lived through the fields. I'd have to run over to my buddy Sean's house, or I was down at Torrey's, or you're riding a bicycle everywhere. And Saturdays were get your chores done and drive down to the canal. We'd haul like a little kid thing down there with our tackle boxes, and we'd be freaking catching 5-pound brown trout in the canal by the high school. It's just like things like that. And that's just, anymore, I don't see kids riding their bikes to the gas station.
No, you really don't, man.
Get an ice cream bar, or get a Mountain Dew or whatever. It's like, golly, they're just sit in the car and look at their damn phone. Sorry, I should.
No, you're fine, man. You're fine.
So you're good.
I mean, you're absolutely right. I mean, there's no kids out there. I mean, I can remember taking off on the bicycle and literally getting lost and not knowing where the heck we were and pedaling as hard as we could to try to find our way back.
So true.
I mean, it happened often, but I've
and it transitioned from the bicycles to the dirt bikes, and I mean, good grief, Saturdays and Sundays. I mean, most of the time we were spending all day in the woods, you know, building jumps and climbing hills and trying to avoid hospital visits and
just being lost.
You know?
Being lost, just going and getting literally lost, and nobody cared. That was the
that was the thing. Nobody cared. I mean, you did something wrong, and you know, you'd show up and, hey, Bob called me and he saw you throwing rocks at cars. You're like, shouldn't have been doing that or whatever. And it wasn't. It just wasn't what it was now. And so, but coming back to, you know, youth activity and bird hunting and stuff like that, I do feel, Chad, that it is starting to kind of pick up, and it's interesting. People don't view fish or birds the same as they view an elk or a mule deer or anything else, right? That they aren't on the same level in those people's eyes. I mean, to me, a life's a life, right? And I'm an avid fly fisherman. I'm an avid hunter in general, but it's just interesting that a lot of that stuff is more openly accepted. And I think a lot of it has to do with what you were saying. It's very like poetic, right? Like bird hunting and fly fishing and all that stuff. It's very romantic, right? There's just so much romantic. It's you know, you kind of just get lost in what you're doing. It's like I can follow my dog around for 5 hours and not even realize how long I've been out there, right? I just love watching my dog just cover ground and cut.
Just watching him work.
Him work, and when he stacks up on a point, like it's then you're fishing, you know, and you'll cast to the same fish 30 times while he's sitting there, you know, sipping on something. You're just trying to catch him, and it's like,
at a point that becomes principle. That becomes principle. It's I'm going to catch you.
Exactly. So it's just interesting, but I mean, I do feel transparently that the upland space, it's kind of the last frontier of the hunting space that hasn't been monopolized. It's been, because it's a smaller group, a lot of your bigger companies don't look at it and say, that's worth our time, which is perfect for the little guy like me that's like, I don't need to be a billionaire. Like, I just want to be able to pay my bills and go
play.
Play. Like, that's great for me. So don't look at it. Don't pay attention to what we're doing down here. But you know, I feel like we've kind of brought a lot of attention. Humbly speaking, I think we've really disrupted the upland space and brought a lot of attention to it. And you start seeing a lot of bigger companies that are like, oh, like, hey, there are communities there. Oh, there is people that actually care about that. And with how companies are growing now or lack of growth, people are looking to start casting a little bit broader net, right? So product categories are, you know, changing and developing, and they're saying, well, hey, we didn't think it was very big before, but we're not growing in this channel, so let's go chase this one and, you know, see if we can get 10% of it or whatever that is, right? And there's a piece of the pie for everybody, and it's all great, but you know, we're just doing our thing, and there's no rear view mirror on this bus. We're just looking out the windshield.
Yeah. Well, and I think if people knew that pheasant tasted way better than chicken ever thought about tasting. Sorry, it's a fact, man. It's just a fact.
Sorry, giving away all his secrets.
I know, yeah.
I'm telling you, if you haven't had it, you may not know what you're missing.
You know, I think it's awesome to see a company like you guys come in and disrupt the space a little bit, so to speak. Because I mean, like you said, a lot of those companies haven't been challenged for such a long time, and everything was getting a bit stale, and you know, complacentness is like, you know, the antagonist to progress. And in a space like that, when something new comes along, I mean, you guys introducing something new to the space is only going to make it all better, right?
Absolutely. And the rising tides lift all ships, right?
Yep.
And I'm a firm believer in that. I'm not competing against anybody. This is a me versus me. I just want to see what I'm capable of and what we can do and how I can express our ideas and what we're doing. And that's everything that we do is based off of real field experience. I mean, I spend 50 plus days behind my dogs every single year, and that's on a slow year. It's like I'm bird hunting 3 days a week. I travel all over the place to hunt wild birds. And so, I'm not some LA designer sitting at a high-tech software just making a Gucci looking bag. I'm making functional gear that works based on everything that I know and what I've experienced. And so hopefully that's the upper hand that hopefully, helps us stay relevant and keep growing.
Yeah, for sure. I need to get out there and spend a few of those 50 days with you. It's something we've chatted about it before. It's something I've always wanted to do. And now that I've got a couple of over and unders, it's time to put them to work. So
story on an over under. So at the Pheasants Forever banquet this year, up for auction was the very first gun that was ever auctioned off at a Pheasants Forever banquet. This is like way back in like the early 80s. I can't say way back because it wasn't that long ago, but in the 80s. And it was this Browning Satori, like grade 5, 20 gauge. Like, Zach, you would just unbelievable, right? And so we're sitting in there, and you look at you got the program for the banquet, and you're like, hey, like, what do we think all these things are going to go for? There's hunts, there's gear and stuff like that. And I'm like, dude, there's no way that gun is going for less than 50K. I mean, there's some high rollers
right
up in those banquets. I mean, there's 1,500 people in that banquet, and I mean, it's a lot of people.
And that space in general kind of attracts a little more of that demographic, right?
Yep, absolutely, which is wonderful. I love that's there.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so we're sitting there, and that gun's going super slow, and I've never paid myself from Final Rise. A lot of people don't know this. I put every dollar of our business back into our business. I'm able to live off of what Mountain Ops pays me, and so I keep reinvesting everything back into Final Rise. And I've always been joking. I'm like, hey, like one of these days I'm going to pay myself, but I'm going to buy something cool. Right? You guys probably can tell where I'm going with this.
Oh yeah.
And this gun holds up, and it's at like 14 grand, and I'm like, there's no way that gun is leaving this building for under 20K if it isn't coming with me. And so I start bidding on it. And the first time I raised my hand, dude, my wife freaking whack right in my Anyways, I wrote it to like 21, and then I was like, all right, I should probably simmer down. Well, little did I know I was bidding against the guy that had donated the gun back to Pheasants Forever.
Oh.
And he was going to go to the top. He was going to get it back. But anyways,
that's wild.
Yeah, my wife was pretty upset with me for a minute. Hey, we're talking about buying a motorcycle. Like I was just going to buy one of the most historic guns in Pheasant Forever history, and she's
this is way safer than two wheels.
Dude, that's how. And all my buddies were like, "Would you have shot that?" I'm like, "Abso-freaking-lutely."
Yeah, Matt would have had that thing in a gun vise in the garage, sanding on the stock just to make it fit him better. So.
You know me too well.
Love it.
Yeah, that's like these guys that buy $25,000 Craigoffs and take them home and start sanding on the stock. I'm like,
yeah. Hey, it takes what
just
it takes.
A tool, right? It's just a tool.
It is just a tool.
Ain't nothing you can't fix with a grinder and a Sawzall.
No. Duct tape, super glue, or Gorilla Glue. It'll be all right.
It'll be all right.
I've seen Matt lay down some pretty good checkering patterns on a stock, though. So.
Off the subject, I seen a kayak today that was literally held together on the bottom. It was a whitewater kayak. It was literally Gorilla Tape on the bottom of this boat. And it had so many holes in it. The guy's like, it's her last ride, but we're going. Send it.
Hopefully it's not your last ride too.
Yeah. That's a marketing. The pictures were up. That's all I'm saying.
That's a marketing ad for Gorilla Tape is what I'm thinking.
Yeah. Oh, it was amazing. I got told I couldn't share it and repost it, but it was cool.
Oh man.
So
yeah, go for it. No, you're
dogs.
good.
Let's get into dogs. We got to talk about dogs. How do you talk about pheasant hunt without talking about the dogs? So tell us a little bit about your dogs, your assistants, your crew that you're taking out with you. What all do you use species wise? And
so I'm big on the German short-haired pointers, or the GSPs. Those have kind of been my flavor since I've gotten into the pointing breeds. I still have a lab. I do quite a bit of field hunting still, waterfowling as well, and so I've still got a lab in the lineup. I grew up with labs. I've got a soft spot for them. I think they're wonderful dogs, but my flavor of the pointing dogs is definitely the short hairs. They're that great versatile dog. It's a hardy dog. It's a durable dog. They're borderline psycho enough that they make just really nice wild bird dogs. And I've been super fortunate to have some fantastic dogs in my life. I've got 4 of them right now. I've got 3 short hairs. Reload is my oldest dog. He's 12. And then I've got Chief. He just turned 4. He's a solid liver short hair. He's a super handsome dude. And then I've got a puppy, Goose, that'll turn about a year. I think he'll hit a year in a couple months now. And so this was his first season, and it's interesting. Dogs they're just like people. I really believe that their personalities and their strengths and their weaknesses and how they hunt and how they work together. And it's been fun to navigate that and grow with those dogs. They're learning, I'm learning as a handler, and it's been fun. I feel like every dog I get is progressively better, and it's whether I know what I'm looking for in my breeding, or I now know how to better handle a dog. I'm not, inducing negative things into a dog. It's just they're my world. I don't have kids. I just buy bird dogs, and my wife buys barrel horses. So she's got horses, I've got dogs, and we're both happy.
There you go, man. So how much time on average, do you spend day to day on their training?
Coming off the wild bird season, this time of year, I'll usually let them lay around for 3 months or so. I start thinking about turkeys and bear hunting, and as much as I want to relax, because literally I get a hunt from August through February.
Mm-hmm.
And then we've got our spring seasons. There's really maybe 2 months out of the year that I don't get a hunt. And in those months, I'm fly fishing, multiple times a week, and anything in between there. I'm a big believer in short and sweet. I'm fortunate I live on some great ground. I got a lot of homing pigeons and stuff like that. So we do quite a bit of work with them. But I'm a big believer that wild birds are the best trainer for a bird dog. And the more birds I can put in front of my dogs, the better off they are. And now that I know how to handle dogs, it's really interesting to see a well-bred dog with a good pedigree. They're just naturally talented. And, there's always little things that you have to correct here and there. But for the most part, I'm only spending a couple times a week, maybe 20, 30 minutes with the dog. And it's just keeping that front of mind, keeping them sharp on that. But come hunting season, I just hunt the heck out of them, and they're really nice dogs. Everybody loves their dog. Everybody likes how their dog works. But I hunt with a lot of people every single year, and fortunate to have some really nice dogs that do a great job.
Makes it hard to be a cat person.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Sure. Yeah.
We don't even want to talk about that.
Yeah. I've had to can a couple cats in my day.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. Where'd the name Final Rise come from?
That's a great question. I've really only ever told the story one time. I did a live with a guy like a year ago. Final rise. So it was interesting. I was actually working on my Jeep with my buddy Derek and Tom. And this was like when I was trying to decide, like, hey, I think I'm going to do this, and so I'm working on a website, I'm working on logos and doing different things. And I knew that I wanted to do the feather specifically.
Mm-hmm.
And, we were talking, and I had written down, like bandit bag, or like things that were like more like related to like chuckers, like people call like chuckers, like bandit birds, or like the red-legged devils or whatever. I was like, no, I don't want to like pinhole myself specifically into a species, right? I mean,
right.
I've worked for some great companies and worked in branding. And so, I understand the bigger picture and making sure that I'm not like, this is who we are and we can't do anything else. Yeah. And so I was really trying to think about like, what as bird hunters, like, what do we live for? Like, what is that moment? Like whether it's fishing, it's like rod tip down, or when it's like, hunting and you hear the branch break or the leaves move or whatever. It's like, what is that like moment where it's like all of a sudden the blood pressure rises and it's go time, and for bird hunting, that is the rise of the bird. That's the covey flush, right? That's the rise. That is that pinnacle moment of, orchestrated chaos, if you will. It's this violent disruption of birds just going every which direction, but it's that whole time standing still type deal at the same time. And so it's like, okay, well, that rise is that pinnacle moment, but how do you respect that with a type of reverence that it's like, yeah, we're out there killing birds, right? Hunting includes killing, but so it's like, so how do you tie, successfully harvesting birds with that pinnacle moment and make that relate to a product? I was like, well, final rise, right? Final rise is speaking specifically to the rise of that bird and that final moment of the life that it's lived, essentially, before it's going to be, put in the game bag, taken home and enjoyed.
Yeah. Love
That's
it.
Good.
Love that. Love logo, branding, all of it. It's super awesome.
Thank you.
The way it all flows together. No, and you mentioned not pigeonholing yourself into, one specific thing. And we thought about that a lot when we came up with Huntley as, kind of its own thing. And we ran it as bow crazy for a long time. We were like, yeah, but what if we want to pick up a shotgun and go hunt birds, or, whatever it is we might want to do. And just from the athleticism and fitness and hunting and all that. And that's where it all came from. But yeah.
Well, there's two things that rise that I really like: birds and fish. You guys are smart guys, so you can tell where I'm going with that. But
the final rise on a fish can also be very nerve-wracking.
Absolutely.
I've seen too many lures go.
Yeah.
A couple of them still haunt me to this day.
Mm-hmm.
What's the one place that you want to go hunt birds, or a species of bird that you want to hunt that you have not done yet?
Fabulous question.
Yeah, great question. I would like to go to Hawaii and hunt chukar. Hawaii has wild chukar populations, and they have a couple odd species of birds, and I don't remember the exact names of those species, but I've seen a handful of pictures. There's a gentleman I follow. His name's Dean. I think it's Sneeling or Snelling is the kid's name. Super cool guy, and they're hiking like across like lava fields, and there's like active volcanoes in the background, and they're hunting chukar. And I'm like, I mean, chukar's my thing, right? That is like, that's my thing. And so I want to hunt and successfully hunt chukar in every possible location that they are. And so Hawaii is definitely a bucket trip, but it would be really cool to go to like Iraq or Iran, to where these birds originated from.
Okay.
And there, I see there's like these, bird hunting Facebook groups and stuff like that. And there's a lot of those guys over there, and they'll post pictures, and, they have these stacks of birds, and they're out there with like old shotguns and their traditional wear and their robes and their sandals, if they have sandals. And I'm like,
right,
dude, I have got to get over there and do that. Like,
that's
guys
wild.
are going over there hunting, you know, like ibex and stuff like that. I'm like, there's no reason I should be able to go over there and hunt chukar.
Right. Yeah.
Bucket list.
That'd be pretty crazy. I'm waiting on the photo of you dressed in traditional Iraqi garb out there hunting chukar in the mountains.
You got to embrace it, right? If you're going to do the whole thing,
if you're going to do it, you got to do it.
100%. 100%. So Zach had that question. What's your goals and ambitions as you move forward? Where's the path 10 years from now? What's it look like?
Oh man, you know, I've never been like a 5-year plan or a 10-year planner, Chad. I'm kind of that, you know, what are the opportunities that are available to me today, and what I do with that opportunity, what will that lead me to? I mean, you definitely have to have the foresight as you envision, you know, directionally where you're going. You know, I speak to Final Rise. It's like, well, obviously I want to branch into fishing and different things like that. But I would love, Chad, to have Final Rise be just viewed as a company that pioneered and innovated like that. Really the feather in my hat is that, you know, whether in 5 years, you know, someone comes in and just totally freaking kicks my butt and they have more money than I can, you know, even try to keep up with them, and they rip off my product or whatever. But like, I hope that we've left a legacy of, you know, people that want to do this for the right reasons and wanted to be American made and innovated and change things. And if our impact, you know, if the ripple effect that we cause, you know, motivates people to support different conservation groups and like just like changes the paradigm of the upland space to where people say like, hey, those people made a difference. Like, it's because of those people that we are where we are now. You know, there's that, what is the name of the book? Is it Begin with the End in Mind? Gosh, dang it. I'm trying to remember the name. Dang it, I'm forgetting. But anyways, basically the concept of this book is like, hey, when you die, like, what do you want people to say about you? And I think about that a lot. And I just want to be known as someone that was honest, that was kind, and was hardworking. And I feel like if I can embody those 3 things and inject that into everything we do with Final Rise, that we will make a positive impact. I feel like we have made a positive impact. And so I feel like this is kind of tip of the spear, and I'm excited to see where it goes. And, you know, who knows where we'll be in 10 years, but hopefully it's a rad, giant American made manufacturing place that's just making incredible hunting gear.
Yeah, I think you're on the right path. You guys just launched your new pant, fully American made. I don't know if you want to say anything about that, but I saw that come out and I was like, dude, that feels like a pretty big accomplishment to me, because sewing a pack is one thing, but getting a pair of pants made, that just seems like a whole nother mountain.
Yeah, that's been a long time coming. I mean, I look, like I said, I look at the upland space, and we've kind of said, you know, it's been pretty stale, right? It's been pretty stagnant. There's a couple of the big dogs that are making some awesome stuff and doing some incredible things, but I feel like there's an opportunity to raise that bar and raise that standard of how products, the quality of products, and how those work in the space. And so technical gear, pants, base layers, different things like that. Man, the upland space is very much ready for a Sitka or a Kuiu with gear that's specific to our needs and what we do. There's enough people that are passionate about it and want to support the upland community that we're going to be the pioneers in that, and we're going to come in and do a good job with it. So I'm super excited.
I'm anxious to see it, man. It's going to be awesome.
They are
100%. Well, Matt, we have eclipsed the hour mark. So what we typically do is we close this thing out is we let you thank the people that you need to thank, tell the people where to find more about you and Final Rise on the socials.
Great. Well, I just, man, grateful for you guys allowing me to come on, and appreciate your guys' time and the opportunity to talk about what we do. I'm grateful for my Savior, Jesus Christ. I'm grateful for my wife, and grateful for the American people that support us. We've got an incredible team, and I recognize that I couldn't do what we're doing without a good team. It's not me. I promise you guys that it's not me. So I'm grateful for the universal support that we're able to receive. And yeah, like I said, we're going to keep rolling, keep giving her the skinny pedal. But you can find us at finalrise.com. That's just like you see it here, finalrise.com. On the gram and on Facebook as well. Same old. Fortunately, I was able to snag those up, keep it nice and simple, just at Final Rise on both platforms. And would invite you to check us out. If you guys have any questions, our contact information's there. Would love to engage with you and help answer any questions that you have. But appreciate the people that tuned in to watch, and hopefully we'll catch y'all on the flip.
There you guys have it. Well, Matt, we're going to hide you for a minute. We're going to close this thing out, and we'll be right back with you, bud.
Thank you, buddy. That was a bit of a selfish podcast on my part because I hadn't talked to Matt in forever, and I just wanted to talk to Matt.
No, that was a great podcast. That was a great podcast. I like it when we've got a guest, and I feel like every story though that we've heard, with the exception of episode 16, was I said it.
The lost episode.
The lost episode on Spotify. Everything that we hear from Matt or any of these others, Luther, some of them, man, it's just been an awesome experience to get to sit down, have a moment of these guys' time and get to know them, hear their stories. And that for me is a learning experience every time we do one of these things, and it gets you pumped up for the next one. It really does. Yeah.
And I know who to direct my wife to with her inquiries whenever she asks me why I picked up a new hobby of upland hunting. It'll be Matt and Fred. It's all their fault.
Our wives are tired of our new hobbies. It's probably best you're in Pennsylvania and I'm here, so they cannot communicate. With that being said, guys, thanks for listening to the Orion Podcast, the Cooler Podcast, telling even cooler stories. If you're interested in an Orion cooler or an Orion kennel for that matter, check us out, jacksonkayak.com. Then if you're looking for a kayak, hop on there, check out all our kayaks that we've got at jacksonkayak.com, and get a hold of one of our local dealers, go take a demo, get yourself in a seat and have a good time out there on the water. And Zero batteries back here in the back. We'll keep us charged up all year long while we're out fishing. Excited.
Yeah, I'm ready to get the year kicked off for sure. We've been been a busy couple weeks, but I feel like it's just getting rolling. We got some projects to get done.
You're going to be an uncle twice here pretty soon. So you're probably going to have to come home. Yeah. It's all more reason to come home. So with that being said, we'll see you guys on the next one. Thursday night, Dock Talk, Jackson Kayak, Jackson Kayak Facebook, Jackson Kayak Fishing Facebook, and here on the YouTube. So check us out there, and we will see you guys on Thursday. Bye-bye.
Peace.